He sat at the corner of the dimly lit restaurant, clutching the last $50 in his wallet. For most people, 50 wasn't much, but for him, it was the difference between groceries for the week or taking a chance at love. A single dad, worn out by endless work shifts and the crushing weight of responsibility, he had decided, just this once, to spend it on himself. On hope. On a blind date that might bring something more than exhaustion into his life. What he didn't know was that just a few tables away, a man with a tailored suit and a fortune that most couldn't imagine, was watching. Watching the way this dad's hands shook as he ordered water instead of wine. Watching the way his eyes carried both fear and courage. Watching, and about to change his life forever. His name was Daniel, 35 years old, with tired eyes that hadn't seen real rest in years. Raising his 6-year-old daughter, Lily, alone after his wife left, had taught him to stretch every dollar. Yet tonight, he risked it. He risked looking like he belonged in a place where polished marble floors reflected chandeliers, even if his shoes were scuffed and his shirt was borrowed from his younger brother. His blind date, a woman named Claire, was running late. As minutes passed, his nerves grew, but not because of rejection. It was the fear of being exposed that he couldn't afford more than this one small gamble. When Claire finally walked in, Daniel's heart thudded. She was kind-looking, not flashy, the type of woman who smiled as though she carried warmth with her. She sat down, and for a moment, Daniel forgot about the weight of $50. He forgot about the judgment he feared from others. He laughed when she laughed. He listened. He tried to make the night count, no matter how short-lived it might be. At the next table sat Alexander Grant, the CEO of a tech empire, with the sort of wealth that made headlines. He had no reason to notice strangers. But tonight, something about the man with the nervous smile and the careful glances at the menu pulled him in. Alexander, who had built his life on calculated risks, saw a different kind of courage unfolding right in front of him. Look for Chapter 2, but the truth was, courage wasn't enough when the bill would arrive. Daniel's hands trembled every time the waiter passed by, and Alexander leaned back, thinking, does this man even know that his struggle tonight might be the very thing that rewrites his future? As dinner continued, Claire picked the most modest meal, as though she sensed Daniel's unease. They talked about books, about family, about the beauty and pain of second chances. Daniel told her about Lily, how she loved to paint and how she asked him every night if he was happy. He admitted he wasn't sure how to answer. Claire listened with a soft heart, admiring his honesty, but when the check finally landed on the table, Daniel froze. $50 wasn't enough. Taxes, tip, it would swallow him whole. His face flushed as he calculated, panic rising like a storm. Alexander watched every detail. The Millionaire CEO excused himself from his table, stood, and in one smooth motion, walked over. He placed his hand gently on Daniel's shoulder and said, "Don't worry about it. Dinner's on me." Daniel looked up, confused, ashamed, but Alexander only smiled. "I couldn't help but notice. Sometimes, the bravest thing a man can do is show up when he is almost nothing. You did that. Don't forget it." That night didn't end with embarrassment. It ended with gratitude, and with an unexpected connection. Alexander handed Daniel his business card. "Come see me tomorrow. I think you have something I need in my company. Integrity." Daniel didn't believe it at first. The next day, walking into Alexander's office felt surreal. He was offered an entry-level position, but with mentorship directly from Alexander. For the first time in years, Daniel felt the ground beneath him shift. Not because of charity, but because someone finally saw the worth that poverty had hidden. Over the weeks, Daniel worked harder than anyone else. He stayed late, he studied, he poured everything he had into learning. Alexander became more than a boss, he became a guide. He saw in Daniel not just a desperate single father but a man with resilience and grit that no amount of money could buy. Claire remained in his life too, visiting Lily, painting with her, reminding Daniel that love was possible. Slowly, the walls he had built around his heart began to crack. He allowed himself to dream, not just about survival but about a future filled with joy. Challenges didn't vanish overnight. Bills still arrived, Lily still needed him, and fear of failure still whispered in his ear. But with Alexander's mentorship, he rose. He grew from an entry-level worker to a manager, and with every promotion, he carried the same humility as the night he only had $50. One evening, months later, Daniel found himself back at the same restaurant. This time, he wasn't afraid of the menu. He wasn't afraid of the bill. He looked across the table at Claire, who smiled at him like she had from the very beginning. And at the next table, Alexander sat once again, not watching this time, but celebrating. Because he knew he had invested in the right man. Look for chapter 10, and when Daniel stood to give a toast, holding his daughter's tiny hand in one, Claire's in the other, he said words that made the entire room silent. I came into this place once with nothing but $50 and a heart full of hope. I thought that was all I had. But tonight, I realize I was already rich. Because courage, love, and integrity were worth more than anything money could buy. The room erupted in applause. Alexander smiled. Claire's eyes filled with tears. Lily giggled, not fully understanding, but sensing the happiness around her. Daniel had not only found love, he had found dignity, opportunity, and the unshakable truth that sometimes, the smallest risks open the biggest doors, and so his story lived on, not as the man who only had $50, but as the single dad who dared to believe and found everything he was searching for.